So I decided that I wanted to do this as a live because I feel like I'm going to kind of be all over the place with this. And it's just something that has very much been on my mind lately. Um, Maybe it's been kind of obvious in some of the content that I've posted, but you know, right now I'm really struggling with being brown skinned. And what I mean by that is, it's like I've been watching videos and stuff where they talk about like statistics and desirability. And, I've been reading about different people and their experiences and the racism that they have to go through. And I just, I have to say that it really, it feels really bad to know that, as someone who is black and isn't like a light skinned black girl, who isn't someone with loose curls or different colored eyes, and is, overweight to a certain degree, the desirability, it's like I am like one of the I'm one of the lowest people on the totem pole. And I don't like thinking that way, but the thing is, in my personal experience, and so I'm not going to just say all black women, but in my personal experience, it's like I have, like, I feel like because I'm not, quote unquote, the preference, very often I am disregarded or I'm seen as someone not really worth pursuing. It's like, it feels like I'm not even allowed to have standards because it's like, well, you're lucky someone even wanted you in the first place. It's not a great feeling. And I don't know how many brown skinned or darker skinned than me. I don't know how many women feel like that who actually have that experience, but for me, that is what it's always felt like. It's felt like, okay, I'm not going to waste my time really pursuing you or desiring you because you're not even what is considered desirable. Like, if I was going to put a bunch of effort into pursuing someone, it would be someone that I could consider to be an actual prize, which seems to be lighter skinned women. And I don't want to think like this, but it's hard when, I mean, like, just today, I was I was looking up Normani, and I think she's such a gorgeous, beautiful woman. But I ended up, not even on purpose, finding this article where she was addressing racism and how when she was a part of Fifth Harmony, she had to put up with like being compared to the other group members who, she by far was the darkest one. Really, all the rest of them looked very similar, and just the racism that she had to go through, even by at least one of her other group mates. And it's hard to look at a woman like her, someone who's so gorgeous. Her dancing, I think, is so great. And even she is, it's like people want to bring her down. It's hard when, like, I'll watch a video and it has nothing to do with racism or anything like that. I'll be watching a video where someone's reading memes, and then at some point a meme will come up with some like person who specifies that they, as far as who they want to date, anyone but a black person. They'll even go as far as to say don't have any African descent, or they'll say they don't even want someone who's even dated a black person. And it's hard. And, the other problem being a black woman is it's like, I feel like black men, even when they're darker, are still considered desirable. Women still want them. And the thing with men is a lot of times, even if they're not the best looking guy, as long as they can provide financially, they a lot of times, not all the times, but a lot of times, can still get women who would be considered higher value. And when we look at higher value for a woman, well, a woman's value is, well, her currency is her beauty. And so when you are considered literally the lowest on the totem pole of beauty, being black, it's like, what are you supposed to do? And so then it's like, most races stick to their own race. The black community is like the only community that is like known for, or it's just really popular to go outside of your race. Our own men don't even want us. Maybe not all the time, but it's not uncommon to see a black man wanting any other race of woman. And the thing is, there's a good chance he's going to be able to get her. Again, because black men are seen as desirable. But black women, and the thing is, even if the reasoning for it isn't necessarily the most positive, they are still desired. But for black women, there's really nothing. One could argue perhaps it's for our bodies, since on average we tend to be more, or it's not uncommon for us to be voluptuous. But I'd say even then, it's like, no. And the thing is, men can do something to try to earn more money. Or a guy, if a black guy is just attractive, all kinds of girls will want him. And so he'll go with, the best one he can get. But when it comes to a black woman, it's not the same. There's not, there's not really anything she can do. By having darker skin, she already has less currency beauty wise. And aside from flat out trying to bleach her skin, there's not really too much you can do. Now if she has a looser curl pattern or different colored eyes, that can help. But outside of that, but even then, Those are things you can't control that. You can control how much money you make, but you can't control biologically what you look like. I mean, sure, you could try to get surgeries, or like I said, you could, you know, bleach your skin, which isn't healthy, but it's like, what are you supposed to do? And, you know, black women a lot of times are known for being very independent, and so get called um, too masculine or aggressive. But it's like, is it really that surprising? Because a lot of black women know. And when I say black women, in the case of this video, I mean darker skinned. And notice I say darker, I don't necessarily mean dark, but darker. It's when you're a darker skinned woman, you know that your options aren't as plentiful or as fruitful as other women. And a lot of times, to even be considered attractive or pretty as a darker skinned woman, you have to be extremely, extremely attractive just to be considered actually pretty. Whereas I truly think that other races of women don't have to be that attractive to be considered attractive. I'ma really keep it a stack here. There be some really mid and basic looking women who get gassed up because of their hair texture, maybe their eye color, and their skin color. And I'm not saying that these women are bad women. I'm not. They could be great women as far as their personalities. And I'm not even saying that they're ugly. I'm just saying that if you were to look at, even within their race, the most attractive women, they don't compare. And yet, they will still, the bar is just, it's so much different for them. It's so much different. So it's, it's hard. And it's like you want to have standards, but it's hard because a lot of times guys don't really want you that much in the first place. So it takes nothing for them to drop you. Or look, if you don't like me being general, fine. We can say just me then. It's my reality, whether I like it or not. I get dropped. Now, some could argue, well, maybe it's not your skin color, maybe it's your personality. I mean, maybe, but I don't know that that's the case. And it, I remember one time, when I was still using dating apps, which I will never use again, a guy, he said to me, he was like, wow, I'm surprised that you're even on here. You seem like you would have been wifed up already. Like, you seem like you have all your stuff together. Like, he was really surprised that I was even on there. And to me, I'm just like, what? Like, what are you even surprised by? Honestly, what's surprising about me being on here? And I know it was supposed to be a compliment. I get it. But ironically, that same guy really suddenly, and I mean really suddenly, like, I still to this day don't understand what happened, but he cut me off. And I feel like it's because, I mean, I wasn't really a prize, like I said. Um, and and so it's hard. It's like if you keep higher standards, guys are like, they scoff at it because it's like, are you kidding me? Like, you're not even you're not even like the preference. You can't really have standards. But then if you don't have standards, then they won't respect you. They'll run all over you. It's a lose-lose. It's like you have to find a really special guy. Like, you have to find a really special guy. Either a guy who, if he's also black, he will, you know, for whatever reason, whether it's because of his family or his own beliefs or whatever, he wants specifically a black woman. And also, I want to add, he doesn't mind what skin tone she is. Because, see, the thing is, just saying, like a black man saying, "Oh, I want a black woman," that doesn't mean anything if the black woman that he goes for, it still is like light skinned or biracial or whatever. Like, to me, it's like, what are you even saying? Like, what are you proving? You're not saying anything. You're not doing anything special. Like, it's one thing if you just end up with that person, like that just happens to be the person that you find. But if you sit here and say, I want a black woman, but then specifically look for the one of, like, you want to make sure she has light skin or a certain texture of hair, then your brownie points for getting a black woman at that point go out of the window, because you basically just found a loophole to cheat the system. So who cares? I mean, really, who cares? So they say, I mean, first of all, they say that out of all of the races and everything, black women are married the least, and the percentage rather, gets higher the darker her skin is, right? So a lot of black women are not getting wifed up. And so, even though it's said that despite what I guess is put out in the media or whatever about black men wanting non black women, most black men do end up with black women. While I have heard that, I'm going to be honest here. When I look at media, and this isn't statistics, this is me actually just looking for myself. When I look at who black men are with, so commonly, so often, I hear about either, it's one of two things every time. Either this man is lusting over, 9 times out of 10 it's a white woman. The other time it's like a Asian. But 9 times out of 10 they're with or they're lusting over a white woman. Or if the woman is, if she is black, she's a light-skinned black woman. That is what I see. I see it in the media. Like, when I watch YouTube constantly, all the time. And when I tell you, every time I see black men, if there are women around, they are never brown or darker skinned women. They are almost 9 times out of 10, they are not. They just aren't. Period. I actually I actually ended up unfollowing a channel because I liked the channel. I they had some views that I was kind of like about, but I'm not going to say what the channel was, but I'm going to say that it was a channel with three guys who did commentary. But there was one guy in particular I unfollowed because of him. I'm not gonna lie, because now I'll be honest. I don't know exactly what race he is, but I feel like he at the very least is half black. He ain't white. Let me say that. All right, he's not white. And my thing with him is that he just now listen. I do believe you can have a preference. Although I do start to question when you start to say stuff like, I won't date X race, whatever. I'm not going to get into that because it's not what this video is about. But my point is, I'm okay with you having a preference, but like this guy, look, I get it. He prefers white women. Okay. But the thing is, I shouldn't be reminded as often as I was. And look, I'm not getting monetized anyway, so I'm gonna just say it. The dick riding he was doing for white women constantly pissed me off so bad, I unfollowed because I was like, you know what? I refuse to keep seeing this. It was so blatant. It was so dick riding. It was so annoying. It really was. I just unfollowed the entire channel. You have the name of the channel wrong, but yeah, them. Anyway, that guy, he just pissed me off so bad. I'm not gonna lie. I had to unfollow. I didn't do this whole thing like, oh, you lost a follower today and blah blah. I don't do all that. I just unfollow. And that's what I did. I just unfollowed because of him. Now the other two guys, I don't know if they had a racial preference. If they did, it wasn't obvious, and quite frankly, that's the way it should be. Because supposedly they, quote unquote, they just love women. They love all women, blah, 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 blah. And that guy who was dick riding on white women, he seemed to also like other women too, true, but his preference was so ridiculous. It was like, it was nauseating. It was actually nauseating. I'm not gonna lie. These days, seeing black men with white women is just nauseating to me. I'm not even gonna lie. I know no one is gonna watch this live anyway, but even if you do, it is what it is. It's nauseating to me because here's the thing. Like I said, it's one thing when it's an organic connection, right? These two just happen to meet, they hit it off, it is what it is. But a lot of times, that's not what it is. A lot of times, it's black men specifically wanting white or light skinned women. And they purposely seek that out. I'll give you another example. I was on Instagram. I unfollowed someone on there on Christmas even. I was following this guy. I found him really impressive because he would do his own stunts and they were super impressive. Black guy. I didn't even think I didn't even know he was in a relationship. And honestly I didn't care because like I said, I only followed him because I found his stunts to be really impressive. But then on Christmas Day, I'm scrolling and I happen to see a picture and it's him with a white girl and a baby. Immediately unfollowed. I honestly started crying because I'm so tired. I'm so tired of darker skinned black women being so undesired that not even our own men want us. Black men will get successful, finally get money, and instead of finding a beautiful black girl, and yeah, I'm saying black this time because most of the time they don't even go for light skin when they do this. They'll get money, get successful, get fame, and marry a white girl or an Asian girl because I've actually seen that like twice. They don't try. they'll they'll get with a dark skinned woman when they're broke, and then as soon as they get money, they get with someone of a different race. It happens so often. When I walk out in the world on the street, you know what I always see? I always see if there's a dark skinned black guy and he's with a woman, she's always light skinned. When I see commercials, same thing. Even with my parents, that's what happened. My mom's lighter skin, my dad's darker skin. One of his brothers did the same thing. I'm constantly surrounded by it. I can't forget it. I can't forget it. I can't. So, you know, it it feels bad. It feels bad. It feels you feel helpless. You feel like there's nothing you can do. And like I said, in my experiences, I've always been really, really quickly disregarded if I was regarded. And, while I have been wanted before, it's either one of two cases. Either one, the guy who desires me has no other options. So it's not like he has options and I was the best one. No, he's the type of guy who he has no other options. I'm the only one. He's desperate. He's not talking to anyone else. So he's really just seeking me out of desperation. I'm not stupid, so I know that. So that's the one type of guy. The other type of guy is the guy who does have options. And you know what happens there? He drops me immediately. There's no chase, there's no nothing. He goes completely no contact with me. That has been my experience. And as far as the experiences that I see with other darker skinned women, I mean, not that I really even have to say darker skinned, because really I recognize that this is just an issue with women as a whole. Women do continuously have negative experiences with men. But I will say, right before I started this, I actually watched a video, and it was talking about colorism, and it was talking about one of the things that the woman said was how darker skinned women, because of the less desirability, they do tend to lower their standards. And because they lower their standards, they end up in higher domestic abuse cases and stuff like that. And I can fully see that. It doesn't surprise me. And, like I talked about earlier the thing with Normani, and one of the group members in Fifth Harmony saying, racist stuff about her. And, that just made me think like, and, this article was written back in 2021, but that's not really that long ago. But my point in bringing that up again is it's like, even when you start to try to think like, okay, well, not everyone's like that. Like I'm around other people, they're lighter than me, but they're not necessarily thinking like, oh, I'm this or I'm that because of my skin tone. But the thing is, they very well could be. And as a darker skinned person, it's something that is always a possibility, whether it's actually the case or not. It's always an option. Whether it's actually what's going on or not, it'll always be an option. Anytime any sort of transgression, whether it's a micro transgression or, I don't know, a macro one, you always will have that possibility that it's just because you're black. I mean, I had an experience, I think it was last week. I was taking a walk and it was cold outside, so I had my hood on and I had my hands in my pockets. And there was this white woman, she was walking a dog. And it was like she saw me, and now I was gonna cross the street. I wanted to cross the street. That was the direction that I wanted to go on my walk. But she she was going to cross the street, and I think she was going to cross because she thought that I wasn't going to cross, because she actually ended up asking me if I was going to cross the street, and I said yeah. And then, she decided not to cross the street. She decided to go straight, and she claimed that the reason was because her dog isn't too friendly around people. Now, that could be true. It could be. But it is also possible that she just felt uncomfortable because I'm black. And the thing is, I'll never know. I'll never know. I'll never actually know what the truth is. And most black people won't. And even if someone of another race shows interest in you, I feel like you always have to question it, specifically because you're black, because it's like there could be a lot of things going on here, right? There's the one hand where it's like, are you just a fetish? Are you just an experiment? Are you just another notch in the belt? You're not someone that they're taking seriously. They just, it's just an experience. That's one angle. Then another angle is, are they just not desirable by the people that they actually want? So they feel like, oh, I'll go for you. And I got an example for that too. Years ago, I went with two friends actually. I went with two friends to a meetup. It was me. Obviously, I'm, brown skinned, right? And then one of my friends was Asian, or well, she is Asian. She didn't die, and the other one is white, right? Well, yeah, I'm gonna use past tense because it's happened in the past. So it's basically a white girl, Asian girl, black girl. Now I should also mention that my white friend, she technically is the beauty standard in the sense that first of all, she's white. She's also blonde. She has blue eyes, and she has big breasts. So, she's technically the beauty standard, right? And there was a guy who was there, and he tried to talk to her first. And he's white, by the way. I should mention that. It's important. So he's white. He talks to her. She's not interested, so she walks away. So then he goes to my Asian friend, talks to her, but she's not interested either. Only then did he come to me. I was the last choice. He struck out twice. And then it was like, well, she's here. And I'm not stupid, so I know that that's what it was. Like, let's be real. And I wouldn't say that I was interested because I wasn't, but I was just, it was a social event. I was more willing to be social, so I talked to him, but which was so it was ironic that I ended up being the one that was willing to talk to him. I was the most receptive, but that was just, another personal example of the last pick and, couldn't get who he actually wanted. So, like I said, there's that. But then there's also the one who genuinely is attracted to you, right? Genuinely, they're a different race. You're a brown or darker skinned woman. They're genuinely attracted to you. But obviously, there's a but because of what this video is about. But their friends, their family, if they are, well, I mean, obviously the family's going to be, but, friends, if they're also of the same race or just they're non black, there is a chance. I don't know how high the chance is because really it does depend on, who those people are, but there is a chance that those people are going to either try to sabotage the relationship, try to convince this person to not be in the relationship, or will not ever approve it because you're black. And so I think a lot of times, even if a guy is, attracted to a brown or darker skinned woman, even if he genuinely is, I think a lot of times he doesn't pursue it because he knows how the people in his life are going to react to it. And he doesn't even want to bother with it. Like, it's not even worth it. So he's like, all right, let me just not. Let me just not. Because I'm going to be honest, if you're attracted to all different types of women and your family is okay with everyone but a black girl, but if you get with a black girl, they'll disown you, then unless you just really like are in love with this girl, why would you even bother? And I, I'm gonna be honest, why would you? Why would you even bother? And I'm saying this from a logical point of view. And this is going against what I would want, but I mean, I get it. It's unfortunate, but I get it. I get it. So, I think it doesn't help all of the stereotypes that get put on us and the ones that get perpetuated by us because of certain representation that we have in the media. It's ridiculous. And it's interesting. I've been watching. There's someone that I'm subscribed to. He's Ethiopian, and he will do like reaction videos, right? And so he's been reacting to a particular show. I'm not going to name names, but he's been watching a particular show that is being put on YouTube. And in this show, it's mostly black women. There are some women who I think maybe they're mixed, or I don't know. I don't think there's any like white girls. They seem to all be like either black or mixed, or I think there's like one Latina girl, I think. I don't know. But one thing that I find very interesting about this show is that most of the women on it are light skinned, right? And there are like three brown skinned girls, but most of them are light skinned. However, even though they're light skinned, this show does not portray them positively at all. These girls are a wreck. I'm gonna be honest, they're a wreck. They're like, oh my gosh, they're a disgrace. They're so messy and just, goodness gracious. I really hope it's just for this show. I really hope that's not how they really are. But I have mixed feelings about it. I really do. Because on one hand, it's like, well, they're not hyping up light skinned women. And usually, if they're going to paint someone in a bad light, it's going to be the dark skinned girls. But at the same time, it's like, but they're still black and they're still being portrayed in a negative light. So, I mean, I don't think I can count this as a win for the dark skinned girls. Like, it's just, it's like, I mean, it's just, it's weird, man. It's weird. I don't know. It's just, it's. So, I don't know. And then I think another thing that doesn't help is it's not like it's just America where it's like, oh, there's we don't really prefer dark skinned people. Like, no, that's a relatively international thought. Like, no, it's not everywhere. It's not everywhere that's like, oh no, you have to have European features. No, it's not everywhere. But generally speaking, white is like, you know, if you're not going to get with your own race, then at least get with the white person. That's what it seems to be. And I mean, even within other like races, there's colorism there too. I mean, it's not even just black people. You know, you go over to like Asia, Middle East, and even there it's like the lighter you are, the better you're, seen as. But to relate it back to the whole point of my video though, even in those cases, right? The darker or darkest skinned women of those races are still, generally speaking, going to be considered more of a prize than a darker skinned black woman. And that's just how it is. And it's just, it's annoying. It's heartbreaking. It's defeating. It's it does a number on your confidence. It feels weird. It's like, I'll occasionally, very, very, very occasionally, I might have a guy in passing say something like, hey, beautiful, or maybe he'll just say a random thing to me. Actually, that just happened yesterday. I was walking and I was trying to catch a train, and this guy just like randomly said hello to me. So I said hello back. I think he probably was like a homeless guy, whatever. But I was like, I'll be friendly, whatever. It's just saying hello. So I said hello, turned to him and said it. And then I kept walking. And he said something else. I don't know what. Oh, I guess I should also mention for context that this was a black man. And also, he did look older. Like, I don't know how much older, but he didn't look like he was around my age. So, he said that. And then he said something else. I want to say that he said something about me being like, he said something like, you're so pretty. But I'm gonna be honest, I had my earbuds in and he said the hello really loud and clear. But at this point, I was already walking away. I didn't know what he was saying. So I don't know what he said. But, so I'll have stuff like that happen. But that's kind of it. Like I said, there's no real, like, there's no real like pursuing. Like, okay, I'll give you another example. I think maybe like 2 weeks ago now, around 2 weeks ago, I was walking to the train. This guy randomly, he stops me, asks me, do I work there? Because he sees me there every day. I'm like, no, I don't work there, you know. And, you know, when he was talking to me, he smiled at me. Honestly, I thought he was kind of cute. I'm not gonna lie. Also, he looked black. I'm assuming he was black. I thought he was kind of cute, but I had like, so he said he noticed me every day. I never saw him once until that day. And I have not seen him since. This man has not tried to talk to me again. I even like kind of sat there a little bit longer the other day. Like maybe if he was around, he would see me. Maybe he'd say something to me. I don't know. But so I even have given opportunities, but he hasn't said anything else. That day I was in a rush. I was really in a rush. I was trying not to miss my train. So it wasn't no like really talking to him or anything like that. So, I mean, I don't know if he just thought I wasn't interested or what, but like, there's been nothing else. There's been nothing. So, there was no pursual, and I'm kind of like, hmm, okay. Like, I'm not really surprised, but it's still annoying. Like, I feel like in person, the time that I got pursued the most was this guy. I was catching the train, and he works where I work, and it felt like he was low key stalking me for a while. Like, I was really trying to show that I wasn't interested, and he seemed to not be getting the point. He finally stopped. Now, him, I'll say that he was pretty persistent, but that was kind of it. Oh, and this guy, for context, I believe he's Indian. I mean, he had an Indian accent. I think that's an Indian. I don't know. I'm not trying to be racist here, but he has some sort of accent, just for context. So there was that, but outside of that, really nothing. If anything, and if anything, I think if anything, I think I get played a lot. I think I get played a lot. Like, there was kind of another incident. I'm not going to speak on that one though. I'm still kind of salty about it. But my point stands. So I can't, obviously, I can't speak for every brown and darker skinned woman. I know that my experience in particular um, is very unique. It's very different compared to the average person. I know that it's not normal at all, but I do think that just generally speaking, there most likely is this collective, I don't know, discontent among darker skin. Like, okay, let me give you another example that actually I was really upset. Like, on the one hand, I kind of am not surprised just because of like their ages, but still, this was very disappointing to me. So I saw this video. There was this couple, and the woman, she was a brown, I think brown skinned woman. She definitely wasn't light skinned. I want to say she was a brown skinned woman. And I think she was pretty. I think she was. She was pretty. And she was a Or I guess is. I guess she still is. I don't know. But again, for the sake of this is in the past, we'll stick with past. Um, she was a social media influencer, and she was married to an Indian man. Now, this man was fine. I'm not gonna lie to you. He was a good looking man. Okay? She got her a good looking man. Now, I was very surprised because again, this is a brown skinned woman, and not only is she with a man outside of her race, but he's a very attractive man. But when I saw that, I was like, well, okay, I wasn't really all that happy just because from the title of the video, I already knew how it ended. So it wasn't really nothing to be like happy about at this point. But it was like, had it not gone that way, which I'll explain in a second, it was going to be such a win. I was going to be like, yo, look at what can happen. Look at how this brown skinned woman actually ended up with this handsome Indian man. Like, that's great. That is such a win. You know, I would have been so happy, but unfortunately, he ended up saying that he wanted a divorce from her because they were married. And, that was the title of the video. And, it was very disappointing. I saw people were commenting that most likely when he marries again, he'll marry someone of his race. And yeah, he probably will. Now, on the one hand, while I am very disappointed for how things went with her, on the other hand, she explained that they got married when they were 18. And I think as of them getting divorced, they were like 22. So they're very young. So, I mean, most marriages, when you get married that young anyway, don't really work out. So, I mean, for that reason alone, I could see it for him. It might not even have been like a race thing. It's just like, oh, I'm still young and I still want to, mess around, whatever. So, you know, eh. But still, it's like, come on. And then I know I already talked about it, but then you got the whole thing with Simone Biles. And, you know, she gets with this man, light skinned man, but that's not a win. Because as far as I'm concerned, he made it very clear during their interview that he didn't want her. So I don't. I mean, I guess that's a win for her because she pursued him, but he, to me, he very clearly is not into her. So it don't feel like a win. So it's like it's just I don't see it. I don't see where brown and dark skinned women are winning. All I see is them getting divorced and then the men that they were with getting with lighter skinned women or women of another race entirely. That's all I'm seeing. Why is he even with her? Well, I mean, she's an Olympic gymnast, very well known, very famous, has a lot of money. So I'm going to say that's the reason, to be honest. After all, he said in the interview that if she wouldn't have started talking to him first, that he wouldn't have messaged her. And also, he supposedly didn't know who she was, but he saw she had a lot of followers, so she, must be good, quote unquote. That whole situation is a mess. But like I was saying, brown and darker skinned women are just taking L's. I don't see any W's. I don't see them. I'm not seeing it. I'm really not. And you know, it it's like I was referring to earlier. I see some of these white women, the surgeries they get, and they're still considered desirable. Like, it's wild to me. If it sounds like I'm shaming, I am. I'm not even gonna lie, because not every surgery looks good. And if you're listening to this and you're honest with yourself, you know that not every surgery looks good. These people, these women get some of these surgeries, they look a hot mess, and it still don't matter. They're still considered desirable because they're still white. Like, that's just that's how it goes. So it's really insulting. It's insulting. I'll see the most beautiful brown and darker skinned women, beautiful, and they just get passed over, disregarded. And these women looking a hot mess. These non-black women, hot mess. And the racism, the colorism, the all the isms are so real. I tell you, it is hard. It is hard being a brown skinned woman because you can recognize the beauty within other brown and darker skinned women. You can see how beautiful they are and still see how what they're compared to is not as beautiful, but simply for stuff that they cannot control, they're still not considered desirable. And it's just, it's hard. It's hard. It is extremely, extremely hard. Like, it can feel like it's not that you hate black people, and it's not even really that you hate your skin, but it's like you hate how your skin gets you treated. And there are places that I'm scared to go because of my skin tone. I'm scared. I'm not gonna lie. I'm scared to go because I don't know how they're gonna treat me. I don't know what they're gonna do. I don't know what they're gonna say. And I don't think that that's something that other races really have to worry about. And like I said earlier when I was talking about the memes and stuff like that, when they say the stuff about like um anybody but black, no African heritage, etc. Like, the people reading these things, because the people that I watch who read these things, or really specifically, it's kind of like one person these days. He's this um, white Swedish guy, and he can read it and he can comment on how messed up that is or whatever. But the thing is, like, for as much as non-black people can be pure and true and genuinely think that statements like those are messed up, and as much as they can believe it, the fact of the matter is it's still not something that they'll ever have to worry about. And while they can feel that it's messed up, it's nothing that they will ever have to be the victim of. And even if they think that that person and that mindset is disgusting, they will never be on the negative side of it. Now they may not want that person, and that's fine, but I'm just saying it's not something that they have to worry about. It just isn't. It just isn't. I was kind of recently, I was trying to explain to an Asian friend of mine, different from the one that I mentioned earlier. I was trying to explain to her how she she's of the mindset that she's only wanted for hookups. And I told her, I was like, that's just not true. I have seen where there have been studies done that have shown that Asian women, at least from online dating statistics, Asian women are the most desired women. And just in case you're curious, white men are the most desired men. And if you're also curious, black women, surprise, surprise, are the least desirable women, whereas Asian men are the least desirable men. And so I was trying to explain that to her. And, I was trying to tell her. And I mean, I think one thing that makes it really, really apparent when I was still using dating apps, I had her use this one in particular. I'm not going to say what it was, but I had her use this one in particular just because she told me that she hadn't ever really gotten like any compliments as far as like being called attractive or whatever. And I was really surprised. So I told her, like, hey, why don't you try going on? Actually, there were two that I told her to go on, and most likely she would get messages and guys would say nice stuff because they said it about me. And so she did. And, when I used those apps, I did get likes and everything. It wasn't like I didn't get any. But when she told me how many messages she got, you know, I'd, and I'm talking about one of the apps right now. I've used that app multiple times. You could add up the messages from every time I used the app, and it still wasn't as many messages as she got from being on the app. And she didn't even really put anything on her profile. I think she might have put 3 pictures. She didn't fill out anything in her bio. She put literal like no effort. I've had times where I've put in no effort. I've had times where I've put in effort. And, you know, while my results varied, they were never what she got. Now, you could argue it's because she's a little younger than me, but I don't think that's it. You could argue it's because I said I wanted a long term relationship. She didn't put that, but I don't think that's it either. I just don't think that was it. I mean, I guess there's nothing to really prove that that was or wasn't the case, but I really think it's because she's Asian and I'm black. Like I really think it's that simple. And so when she was saying, "Oh, like guys just want me to hook up for hookups," I'm like, "No, no, no, no." And at the end of the day, I don't see too many people saying talking crap about Asians. Like, yes, it happens. Don't get me wrong. It happens. It happens. Okay, let's not get it twisted. It happens. But like, a lot of men want Asian women because, a lot of times they have the lighter skin, they have the hair, but then also they're quote unquote exotic. And men love exotic. So, you know, she, yeah. And I do think it's kind of ironic that I've been complimented more than she has. But I also think that a reason for that, and I'm talking about in real life, just like I said in passing, but I think though that the reason for that probably just has more to do with, again, me being black and her being Asian. And what I mean by that is I feel, and I could be wrong about this, I'm not gonna lie, but I feel like, um, because all of the guys that I've been complimented by in person, they have all been black, 100%. I've not had a non black guy compliment me in person, uh, like about my looks or anything. It has not happened one time. And even out of the guys who did it, I would say that half of them were not like the highest caliber of men, if I'm being honest. So, and I think because we are the same race, they just feel more comfortable doing that. And I think it's just more of a culturally acceptable thing for black men to do. Whereas, like, when it comes to Asian culture, now I don't know too much about it, so I am making an assumption here, but they do seem to be more reserved. And also, I don't think that she's often around like a bunch of Asian men, so I don't think that she's commonly encountering like her own race for one. And then also, even if she was, I don't know that they would be as prone to just yelling out a compliment, because I don't know if that's really something that like they do. And also, as far as, well, but if they're so desired by everyone, wouldn't she get hit on by guys of, other races? Like, wouldn't a black guy hit on her, or, even a white guy, because that seems to be a thing that they do. Well, yeah, I mean, I could see that happening, but I could also see it maybe not happening because, again, uh, there is a race difference, and I don't know, like, how often or how comfortable men of other races feel trying to talk to someone of a different race. So, like, if there was, like, say there was a white guy who saw me and found me attractive, like, in person, I don't know, like, aside from all of those reasons that I mentioned earlier about why someone might be attracted to you as a black woman outside of, being black, outside of that, I could see where he wouldn't necessarily feel comfortable doing it because he's thinking, like, well, I don't even know if she's into white guys. Because I will say that I had an unfortunate incident at my last job where there was a white man who was interested in me, and via a another coworker, I was told that he asked, "Do I like white guys?" I try not to think about that experience, but so I do think that that could possibly be a thing. And especially because, it could be seen as like if a white guy goes for a black girl, he's quote unquote, like, going below his standard or whatever, then maybe there's more ego involved and he doesn't like. It's one thing to be rejected by a girl, but to be rejected by a dark skinned black girl, no way, you know? So yeah, I do think that there could definitely be reasons for that. Now I would be very curious cuz okay, so I have never really been in like a Hispanic community or like among like a lot of Hispanic men, but I would be very curious to know if they would hit on me. Now I will say when I was on one of those apps, it seemed like it seemed like they kind of liked me, I think. But I don't know. I can't really prove that one. I don't know. I can't say. But yeah. So I really think it might just, depend. And like another thing too, because okay, to be fair, there was an incident 2 jobs ago where there was a white guy who never even really saw my face and he gave me his number. And at the time, I didn't realize that he was interested in me. Don't ask, but I didn't realize it at the time. Um and if you were to ask him later, he probably would say that he wasn't, but why else would he give me his number? Anyway, so that happened. He was white and he didn't even see my face. So I'm not gonna sit here and say like white guy, and supposedly he had a girlfriend too, but the messiness of that I'm not even gonna get into. But um so I'm not gonna say that like white guys aren't they don't seem interested in me at all. I mean, there's a guy currently at my job who I'm not going to say that he's into me, but I do think that he finds me attractive just because I feel like I I feel like I had the halo effect on him because he made a lot of positive assumptions about me for like no reason. Like I barely even spoke to this man. He spoke 98% of the time. Like he would go out of his way to walk over to my desk and just talk to me forever, and I pretty much would just listen, and he would just make these really positive assumptions about me that I was like, but why though? So I feel like it was the halo effect at work. He is supposedly getting married, he says. So, I'm going to assume that he's not going to actually try to pursue anything with me or anything, but I do still think, again, that there was a halo effect. And as far as the caliber of this guy, also doesn't seem the highest. I'm not gonna lie. So, my theory with that still stands, but, you know, I'm just saying. I'm just saying. Um, it's yeah, it's just I don't know. I do think location matters because like I've seen videos of girls who they're my complexion, they're darker, whatever, and I've heard them say like they get hit on by guys all the time. I'm like, how, where, like, can't relate at all. What? Like, do y'all just live in a completely different place? Because I'm not experiencing that at all, you know? So it could just be my location. Maybe if I was somewhere else, I'd be getting hit on or whatever. I don't know. It could be my location. So, I mean, it could be I've been told by at least one person that I look mean. Maybe it's that. I feel like I tend to walk like I always got somewhere to go, because I do. Could be that. So I don't know. It could be quite a few things for me personally. But, you know, I'll say this too. Lately, it's been particularly um what word do I want to use? It's been particularly like um confusing. Maybe that's the word. Disorienting, uh confidence shaking. I don't know really how I want to classify it, but lately I've been actually, because I have a history, as I feel like has already been kind of implied heavily, but I have a history of not being someone that has been pursued. So not just recently, but like throughout my whole life, I have a history of that. But um and so obviously that also contributed to me not feeling attractive, and with me not fitting the beauty standard, I have felt unattractive. But lately, I have been feeling attractive. I have actually been like looking at myself and thinking that, like, oh, I am beautiful. And I've been called that. I've had really like nice things said about me and my appearance, and it's not like super rare for me to hear it, but it's like it it it's weird though, because it's hard to accept, in the sense that, like, okay, so if I think I'm beautiful and then I have other people who have said it, why is it that my life experience doesn't reflect that? Like, I mean, I did a video on TikTok where I asked the question, do you ever feel gaslit about being called attractive because, your experiences don't reflect that you're attractive? And if you really are attractive, then it seems to not even really matter, because you're not getting the privileges of being attractive. And that's really how I feel. I mean, I've talked about pretty privilege and stuff like that. I feel like pretty extensively on this channel, because it's something that I'm particularly interested in and invested in, whether I should be or not. And I feel like if I am pretty, I do not experience the privileges of it. Maybe the negatives of it, even though some would argue that there are no negatives, which was a very, I watched a video where a girl was commenting on that when she was talking about how really there aren't negatives of pretty privilege, it's just negatives of being a woman, because whether you're pretty or not, the same things that pretty women complain about experiencing are the same things that other women, even if they're not considered conventionally attractive, still experience. So there really are no negatives of pretty privileges of being a woman, and I thought that was a very interesting argument. Um, but regardless, I don't think that it's something that I experience. I do wonder, since that this also ties into, I feel like, the point of this video. I watched a video once where a girl was, or a woman was claiming that she wondered if it's really so much pretty privilege, or is it how how close to whiteness are you? And this video isn't really about pretty privilege specifically, although I do think that it's very heavily integrated, considering that I'm talking about colorism and the effects that it has specifically on women. And like I said, with women, beauty is their currency in a lot of cases. And so, but, when it comes to pretty privilege, it really is true that when you think about it, pretty privilege most times is um, associated with how close are you to the beauty standard. And at the very least, here in the West, the beauty standard is European features. And so if you have a looser hair curl, right? One, two, or three hair texture, then that's a point in your favor. If you have lighter skin, that's a point in your favor. Different color eyes, that's a point in your favor. But all of these things, and just other European features, all of these things it's very anti-black. And so, I mean, now I've seen black women, and this includes brown and darker skinned women, argue that there is they do experience pretty privilege. So, and I'm not saying that, well, I don't know, maybe I was implying it, but while I do think that it's possible for a dark skinned woman to experience it, again, does she have, I mean, maybe she has darker skin, but does she have the different color eyes? Does she have a looser hair texture? Does she have the body that is desired? Does she have the facial features that are desired? Those are all things that, even despite her skin tone, can work in her favor. So, it, I do think that it can be experienced, but I would I would argue, and I would say that most likely it is on a much smaller scale in general as compared to other races. Because, like I said earlier, I feel like if you're non black, you could be basic and you'll still get praised as being really attractive, versus a black woman has to do so much more. Like, she has to, like, the standard for her has to be so much higher. Like, oh, she's black but she still has light skin, or oh, she's black but, other stuff that I've already mentioned. So the scale is different, the bar works differently, and I'd say it's a problem. It's a problem. And it doesn't help that when maybe I mean, I did consider doing a video on this. I don't know that I will, especially because, will I keep having this channel alive? I don't know. It's not like I have a bunch of people who watch, but I was considering doing a video on why representation matters, because it really does suck when anytime you see any sort of media, you never see like a darker skinned woman like represented in a positive light. Like, first of all, you probably won't even see one. That's number one. If you do see her, most likely she will not be the main character. She most likely will be a side character. Even as the side character, she may be the person who is considered undesirable by men, or she's very goofy, or she's very loud. You know, she comes off as just a very unlikable person a lot of times. So, if you do see a darker skinned woman, a lot of times, and again, this is if you even see her, she's not portrayed a lot of times in the most positive light, and she's almost never the main character. There will be times where perhaps there is a character in, like a book, for example, who has already been set up to be a dark skinned woman, yet when she's played in a show or a movie, she is played by a noticeably lighter skinned woman. She's either a light skinned black woman or she's biracial. And that's another thing. If a black woman is cast in a role these days, more often than not, she is light skinned or biracial. And while I don't want to sit here and say that light skinned black women aren't black women, because obviously they are, the thing is, I feel like a lot of times when the skin color gets lighter, the ambiguity, ambiguousness, ambiguous, I can't say the word, I'm sorry. But, you know, the being ambiguous is very much more in question. Like, you could at least question it. It's not to say that she isn't just fully black, but you could at least start to wonder, like, oh, is she mixed? Is she this? Is she that? Versus a darker skinned woman, it's like, while she also could be mixed, there's no there's no real question or denying or anything that this is a black woman. And, you know, it would just be nice to see a woman who is black, who there's no question, there's no ambigu- ambiguity. There we go. There's no ambiguity, right? She is just black. Again, even if she's mixed, you don't really question it, and it's still okay. It's still a positive. It's still good. It would just be nice to actually see that. It would be nice to actually be celebrated in the media, to be considered desired. It would be nice. It would be nice to see more black love, and to not always hear about how white guys are scared that their white women want black men, and then you hear about how the black men want white girls. And uh, but I don't know. I guess maybe I've ranted enough. I mean, it's been about an hour and a half now. I felt like I really needed to make this, because it really has been something that's been very, very heavy on my heart. Very much something that I'm struggling with. Something that it didn't, when I was younger, it's not like I didn't know about like racial dynamics and the preference for white people, but I didn't understand it to the extent that I do now. And now that I do, I even look back on certain quote unquote friendships that I had, and I look at them a little differently. And, this was just something that I felt like I needed to get out. Like, I needed to really vent about this, because I don't know. I know, again, no one's probably going to ever watch this, but I don't know how many people can actually relate to this, or who feel this way, or who understands, or who is in this position. but I am. And so I just wanted to talk about it. And so that is what I did for about an hour and 30 minutes. So if there's anyone who actually listened to this, actually, I don't know, I guess went back to the live and decided to listen, and you actually made it to this point, then thank you for sticking with me. I hope that you got something out of this. If I have another live or post another video, I hope that you will um, catch me in that one, and I hope you enjoy. And yeah, hopefully will catch you in the next one. Thank you for listening.